All right, y'all. Welcome to Here for the Hang. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Welcome, welcome.
I am your host, Carlisle Forrester.
And I'm Bryan Agnew.
And today we're joined by a very special guest. Let me do my best Don Pardo impression. Darrell Hammond.
Hey. Welcome, welcome, Darrell.
Well, that's a wonderful introduction. I thought for a minute there you were going to say, here from the pages of the Bible. Here from Leviticus 3. Well, thank you. That's a lofty praise. Thank you.
Yeah, it's nice to have a legend in this studio.
Yeah, truly.
I've been a fan for so long.
So cool.
And
Is that what a legend is?
I think so.
How do you become a legend?
I mean, I'm just kind of like, I just remember like sitting, watching you like this, like heels popped up in my grandmother's living room.
Not really knowing that there were significant death threats made to me.
Yeah.
Was there?
No idea of that.
Yeah, there were.
I bet.
And no idea that we would someday meet and I'd be sitting in this close proximity to you. So my mind is kind of blown.
All right.
Okay.
I can jump on that bandwagon. My mind is also blown.
Yeah.
SNL legend, man. I remember the first time I got a laugh was my parents asking me to do an impersonation of Bill Clinton. Because I'd watched SNL and they thought it'd be funny to do for like my aunt, uncle, and my cousin and her new boyfriend. And then they were like, do it. And I was like, I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
You had to do it, right?
Had to do it. Man, I was like 10 years old, man.
But you had to do it since you were in front of me.
Yes.
I had, of course.
Do you get
I'm sure that
a lot?
gets old, but yeah.
Everybody has to give you their Clinton.
Always.
Yeah, always.
Coming out of the gates with something hacky. I'm just kidding.
I have no shame, and that was for me. But no, it is actually a pleasure,
impression.
man.
Clinton was more of an impression than a impression. Like I had a whole summer to get into his head and where his vowel sounds came from and why he put commas in illogical places. And the only other person I'd seen do that is JFK. And it turns out JFK is his idol, and you see where he derives from.
Yeah.
But then comes the weird vowels, like it's Southern accent, but the oohs and the oohs and the u's particularly.
Yeah.
And then I figured out, well, wait a second, Arkansas is right above Louisiana.
Right.
Louisiana, heavy French influence down there, and maybe that's where those vowels came from in Arkansas. But I mean, it confounded me for a while because from the very second I saw him, I thought, he's doing someone.
Yeah.
Now he's not doing someone, he's deriving. Right. You know what I mean? He's deriving from someone, and that's not pathological.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Clinton's as good as you'll ever see up there.
Totally. Totally.
I mean, he understands innately that you can get a lot more out of people if you make them feel, as opposed to make them think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody knows that better than Trump.
Yeah. I was going to say, it feels like Trump probably took that up, that feel versus think. Because there was a lot of thought after, maybe George W. Bush, not so much thinking.
If you look back at him, it's impossible to ignore that some of the moves were incredibly shrewd.
Yeah.
That this person that, when I did the Politicon party 10 or 12 years ago or something like that in Pasadena was, you were guaranteed to get a laugh by bringing up Donald Trump. Maybe his goofy hair, maybe he's a blowhard or something like that.
Yeah.
You could always get a laugh. And here, flash forward 12 years, and this goofy guy that everyone made fun of is above the law.
Right.
And tells the Supreme Court what they should do.
Yeah.
So you've got to give the guy a little credit for shrewdness and cleverness and stealth.
Oh, no doubt.
Like
And you've actually met him and hung with him.
I mean, hung with I've had occasions. Well, I was in his office a couple times, and that was probably a half an hour at a time. But
Okay.
there were other times where you just meet for a second and have a photo op. I did a police athletic league dinner for him one time. I did 10 minutes for him and for the police athletic league, and I think the commissioner Robert Kelly was on my left, and Donald and Melania were on my right, and it made for some real interesting chit chat.
I bet.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's one of those times when you look at yourself and think, how did I get
What
here?
is life?
Totally.
Yeah. But he likes your impression, right?
Apparently he does, but I mean, the impression that I did was of a guy that doesn't really even exist anymore. In his new element.
You were talking about this on stage the other night, the differences in Trump. So you do the kind of lower.
I did the lower, breathier,
Yeah.
blowhardy, apprenticey.
We like that one.
Yeah, it was very successful at the time, but it's not what he's doing now, which is, once I had this experience once where I played in front of 10,000 people, and the first thing I noticed was how different I was.
Yeah.
Hearing 10,000 people as opposed to 23 people laugh at something I said.
Right.
And how suddenly I became larger, and my gestures got larger, and my voice got more resonant, and I spoke with greater diction, and I was this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just naturally takes over.
When that happened to him, of course he would change.
Right.
You are the great orator now.
Be impossible not to. At that point.
Yeah, you're the great orator now.
I have a similar thing
crazy.
so I don't know if you're aware of this. I think you saw me do my Paris Hilton impression, but the Paris Hilton is a quieter impression.
And she's a person that people don't really know what she sounds like. So if you do a nice characterization of her, I believe.
But it's low. And so sometimes when I do it on stage, it's almost difficult depending on the size of the crowd, because it's just like a very quiet, because she's actually very shy.
Mm-hmm.
And she talks like this. And I've met her in real life, and she never drops, she's just like.
That's the tone the whole time.
Loves it. But it's quiet. And now she's doing this thing where she's taking a bill to Congress. And I don't know if you've seen any of this on the news. She's like trying to stop child abuse because of the crazy school that she went to, where they the teen wilderness camps where they kind of like whip you into shape and beat you.
I've seen these documentaries.
Paris Hilton passed a law now, so she's in the White House. So now the White House voice,
Yeah.
I'm not very good at that impression.
Interesting.
She's taken on this different, she's like lower.
Right. She's become different.
Yeah. You always become different depending on the crowd.
Yeah. Like I always say that, everyone has 5 voices. And when I was doing Trump, I was doing all 5 of those voices, depending on what research had been sent my way that week, or if I talked to him recently.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was that part of it? Like you talking to Trump, was that part of research, right? Or those just, are you putting that together? How's that working? Like, I'm curious. Not just Trump, just anyone you're doing an impression of. Because I know that there was times when you were doing Clinton and you guys seemed to have a cool relationship.
Yeah, Bill Clinton also liked your impression.
Yeah, all the people liked the way I did them. And
yeah,
it's always flattering.
Sort of led to, there's a lot of speculation as to why I would lose that job, when I was doing it and I was going viral too. And the speculation is that I was just too fair-minded to the guy.
Mm.
That it wasn't an outright, smear campaign. It was this interesting fellow that I'd seen be 2 or 3 different things, and I'd done 5 commercials with him for Oreos, and I've seen him around his children. I've seen his children around him. Mm-hmm. And all of that stuff, factored into the way I wanted to play him. I think that sort of it's possible we reached a point where the world didn't want that anymore.
They
You know, I
just
was
want
doing-
people to be mean.
I was doing Michael Moore's show on Broadway, and I said, I have this joke I did that would get 100% of the room that now will probably get about 50% of the room. He said, why? I said, because people are taking sides.
Yeah. It's polarizing.
This is for keeps.
Totally.
Yeah.
Not coming back.
Kind of wild.
So
Interesting time.
Yeah, so when he started getting louder, he started doing that gravelly pit thing, but I was doing the softer, more mellifluous one. Just very, very interesting to run across a person like that.
well, can we run it back to, because I've always wondered, I love hearing people's stories of how you were discovered for SNL. So how did Lorne Michaels run across you originally?
I was doing a set at Caroline's, and someone took a video of it and sent it to Marcy Klein, who was then, executive producer on the show under Lorne. And in the exact precise moment, I'm not even sure if she saw me do the set live, but she did see, I'm sure she's on the tape, in the exact right melding of the cosmos.
Yes.
It's the kind of thing, if she's in the bathroom powdering her nose, you and I are having a very different conversation.
Right.
And I'm not a person that gets luck. You know what I mean? But even with all the preparation that I had done, the 12 years, starting out in Vero Beach, Florida, trying to do constant and never-ending improvement, like Tony Robbins says, and making incremental changes every week, as many weeks as I could. I didn't do 52 weeks, but I probably did 25.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of improvements.
Yeah.
Totally.
So that was the way, I approached it. And then,
so you do a constant improvement every single week in regard to,
not anymore, but I did then.
In regard to comedy or just life in general.
My career, career, it could be.
I like that.
Me too.
It could be, I got somebody's car tonight.
Yeah.
That's an improvement.
Yeah.
Every small improvement you can think of, the idea is that they build up and become exponential, and you start creating something for yourself. I don't know if any of that's true, but I did all that stuff, and maybe it worked for me, maybe it didn't. But, you're talking about a career where you guys are describing me as a legend, but, 99% of the things that I tried in show business failed. That's the nature of the game.
Yes.
But you kept
That is
trucking
the
on.
nature of the game.
I remember I was living in Hell's Kitchen. I was 34 years old, and I knew then, that I wasn't going to make it. I knew, I had tried the Comedy Store, and I was rudely rejected. And not the Comedy Store, the comic strip.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't get a set at Caroline's. I couldn't get a set at the Cellar. And I thought to myself, you might not make it, man.
At 34.
Yeah, you might not make it.
Right.
Right.
And you should start considering that. And then I decided it's going to be a lot easier to fucking go balls out and try to make it, even if I don't think I'm going to.
What age did you originally go to New York to try?
Well, I went when I was 21 for a few years, did a few plays, blah, blah, blah. And then I came back. I think I was right around 33 or 34 years old. I got back to the city. I'd even done a Showtime spot, but I couldn't get on stage during, normal business hours, so to speak. I couldn't get on stage until 3:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until a good Samaritan referred me to Esty at the Cellar that could I ever get on that stage between 9 and 11. And she took a look at me, and that was that. But I'd been rejected there before, twice. I'd been rejected from Boston Comedy. All of them rejected me at least one time. And so, I didn't have any reason it wasn't hard for me to believe that this damn thing might not work out.
What were the impressions back in those days?
Let's see. I did a lot of, I guess the big one I did was Phil Donahue. And when I auditioned for SNL, I think I did him in Spanish or something like that. And like, I think Ted Koppel in German or something like that.
Yeah.
Because when I got called in, you don't have a lot of time.
Right.
There's not going to be 3 weeks.
What do you have? Like, how long's the audition? 5 minutes? 10 minutes?
10-minute audition. And then you got what, a few weeks heads up? A couple weeks? Maybe a week?
Maybe a week.
Okay.
Wow.
Probably not.
Yeah.
And you got to, how much stuff can you bring in? Can you dump on the floor in 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Totally.
And then if you're lucky, you get a call back and you do the same thing again. And I was dumping a lot of stuff on that damn floor, trying to come up with some way to present all these different voices that I'd been doing since, I was a child.
Yeah.
What was your feeling when you left the initial audition? Did you feel like that was great? That was the best I could have done.
No, I didn't feel that at all. I felt like I'd failed it, but I had really
failed it.
I was excited that I hadn't choked.
Yeah.
You knew you didn't bomb.
No, I knew that I performed as well as I wanted to perform it.
Right.
Cool.
It is what it is.
I didn't think it would be successful, but there's no one laughing.
Yes,
Right.
I've heard that. He gives you nothing.
There's no sound.
So is it Marcy Klein, Lauren Michaels?
She wasn't even
else?
in there.
Who are the other people judging
There
you?
would be the camera operator.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's it. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. It couldn't be scarier, but I was just really satisfied that I didn't choke.
And are you passing anybody whenever you're coming and going? Like, who else is auditioning at this time? Anybody that
I
ended
didn't
up
see
with
anybody.
you? Okay.
But it's interesting when you walk out of there, and it was only the biggest moment of your life. It was only the high spot of your life's prime. You will never be more alive than you were in that moment. And you're walking out of there and people are just sort of slightly bored looking stage hands. And, people are just not saying, hey, that was great. Nobody's saying that.
Right.
Yeah.
You're walking out of there in silence. And I've often suspected that it was one way to find out if you were going to have the nerve to keep it together when something goes wrong in live TV.
Right.
Like,
right.
Awful wrong. Like,
Yeah.
there was this one sketch where I did Tony Soprano, and I felt that I'd come up with a decent Tony Soprano during the week. I mean, listen, this is not 6 years to learn one voice. This is 48 hours.
Yeah.
Right.
So I thought I'd come up with something that was okay, representative. And then when we got out there, I had a pancake in my mouth from an earlier sketch, and the cue cards weren't ready, and the light went on, and there weren't words, and I'm just sort of sitting there at the bada bing, mouthing a couple of words, but I recently looked back at it, and I think I made a valiant effort, but it was hard not for me to slip into Brando,
Can we talk to Tony Soprano?
No, I'm not.
That was my James Lipton. Remember how I used to do that on Inside the Actor Studio? Can we talk
That was
to
funny.
Phil Donahue? No.
I had dinner with him one time, and he was talking about like how many martinis I was drinking.
Yeah.
And it was concerning to him. And he's like, I can understand 3 martinis, 4 martinis, this and that. But 10 fucking martinis? Gija fucking Christ. He says, Gija. But 10 fucking martinis? Gija fucking Christ.
So good.
I just recently watched that. Like, it's on point.
I'm
Oh
in the
my
middle
God.
of watching it right
Does
now.
it
I
come
never
off
saw it.
there when I do it that way?
Yes.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, Gija fucking Christ.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's so good. Man. James Gandolfini, R.I.P. Lost him too soon. There's no one else like him. There's no other actors like him.
That's my favorite scene in True Romance. You know that movie True Romance, Darrell? With he and her. With he and the girl. I can't think of her name. Patricia Arquette. And he's got her. And
Gandolfini?
James Gandolfini. He plays one of the hitmen.
Oh, that's right.
Remember? And then he's beating the ever-living shit out of her.
Yep.
And he's like, go ahead, kid. Give me your best shot. You know, and then she just tries to attack him with like a wine corkscrew. I don't know why I'm even trying impressions whenever we have the greatest impression here, but you know,
just let it all hang out, man.
I've tried a couple, and they've all. I don't know why I'm trying to impersonate men.
You're cool with shitty impressions, right?
Are you good with shitty impressions? He did one. Now
I did one earlier.
You bring this out in people.
It's fine.
Most of the ones I've done, I thought sucked.
No.
Oh, come on, man. No way.
I mean, there just wasn't any time to learn these things.
Yeah, because it's got to be current events, right? So they're just telling you, okay, now you're going to do so and so. So what is that process like? You just look for anything they had on the news or
like for that week.
Well, the
of
writers
show?
would do that, you know. Yeah. They would come around and say, "Do you think you could do Geraldo or something like that?"
Yeah.
You know, that's a really good example of how there was no time, but somehow we found a way to, you know, do a pretty good job.
So nerve-wracking, that show.
Oh,
doing all that.
Forget it.
How many years were you on?
I mean, forget it.
Consistently.
So it's like 485 shows, over 1,000 appearances.
It's crazy.
And every single one of them is balls out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you have that week, you have
even
the guest.
if you're the waiter and you're just taking the check.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, get this shit right.
Yeah. Pressure's on right away.
Get this right.
Yeah.
You know, and if you can, hit one out of the park. You know, every once in a while you're going to get one of them juicy parts.
Yeah.
But
the Sean Connery.
I was just going to say that, dude.
Is also just.
That's prime. You and Will Ferrell going back and forth with Trebek and Connery is like.
Maybe 5 or 6 years after the show was over, you know, after I wasn't an active member anymore, someone showed me some of those sketches. And I admit I laughed at them.
It's iconic.
You got to do it.
This thing where, you know, I had Dana Carvey and I had done a sketch, and there was this whole education for me on how to not do an impression, but how to do an impression that will work on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
You know, where you haven't seen these words before, probably. You know?
Yeah.
And I began to focus on, instead of saying funny things, saying things in a funny way. I was told that was my talent, saying things in a funny way. But Dana showed me, you know, all his impressions were these ingenious caricatures.
Yeah.
Like there was a caricaturist named Hirschfeld that, you know, Kate Hepburn's nose wasn't really that big. You know, Bogey's didn't really, you know, he didn't really. But they were more like the person than the person. So that was the art form that I was, you know, first fascinated with when I saw Eddie Murphy, and then, you know, I got riveted again by Dana Carvey.
Were you and Dana like there's some crossover there too, right? Like
No.
okay. So you became buddies after.
I don't think
SNL.
we were buddies. But the times we've spent together on set are incredible together.
Because you always have that bond.
He makes me laugh so much, and I just so appreciate what he does, you know, and how well he does it. I mean,
yeah,
no one plays that room at 30 Rock better than Dana Carvey.
Who were your friends whenever you were there in those years?
I don't think they were friends. I mean, if you were hanging out, I would hang out with Tracy Morgan sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
But, you know, it ain't that kind of place.
Right.
Seems like it's a grind. And then when you have time off, you maybe want to get away from it a little bit.
Well, and that probably the competitive nature of it, too, because everybody wants their sketch on. And
yeah,
so
it's
they're
only the
kind of
world
like-
watching.
Yeah, exactly.
No big deal.
It's only every newspaper in the Western world.
It's the same thing with Here for the Hang.
It's only the president of the United States. No pressure.
No pressure at all.
It used to be pretty hard.
You got a solid 10 people watching you right now. I don't know how you're feeling about it, but.
Well, I've always thought you were. I like you as a comic, and I like you as a person. So.
Can I just tell you that keeps me going? Like you called and told me that on a day, like whenever I was really, I have those moments too, like you had of thinking about hanging it up. And I'm not 34. So it's like.
Yeah, I remember thinking about hanging it up and I thought, and do what?
Yeah, exactly.
You can't
At
do
this
that.
point.
This one thing I want to do. One thing I want to do. I want to be funny enough to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In the beginning, the first times I saw Eddie Murphy, I realized I wanted to be what he was. I wanted what he was doing, which was to be funny. He's not just doing good impressions.
Mm-hmm.
He's bending the impression towards whatever it needs to be funny, to get that laugh. And I thought that's what I want to do. I want to be transformative, but I want to try to find a way to be funny.
But you said earlier in your career too, you were also doing plays. So you have a flair for the dramatic acting as well. Does comedy win out as far as what you like to do, or do you still have an affinity?
I don't know. I when I did Damages, that character was a really meaningful assassin to me. I mean, he was a combination of people I'd known. Well, a couple different people that I'd known. And at the very end when he's killing this person and the way he does it, making the character behave as if something else is happening.
Yeah.
Maybe something cute and charming like a basket of kittens. And when the Kessler brothers came to me and said, we have this character, he's a cleaner, and can you do you have some idea of something? And I thought, I know the person.
Yeah.
I used to wait on him when I was working at the Skyline Motor Inn, and I know those eyes.
Right.
So I tried, and that one went okay. The Law and Orders went okay.
Yeah. How many Law and Orders have you done?
I only as I did SVU and then Criminal Intent, and then I did Criminal Minds. So I did I had a fair amount.
You've done them all.
But the funny thing is,
the casting director. Can you pass that?
No, but the funny thing is, like,
to your girl?
You think that if you go out there and you give a performance in one of these top dramas, that something new will happen.
Right.
Yeah.
You will have opened a new door.
Right.
Not necessarily so.
But you would
whatever.
You would do dramatic acting, right? Like would you be interested now, like, to get back into it?
I just did that one-man show in New York for Amazon. That was dramatic acting.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The one that you cover in the documentary?
Yeah, that one. It's it's how the theme of the play is mental illness is not an airborne virus. It comes from somewhere specific, and how I went through life with all these doctors having no idea what was wrong with me. Until I met this guy who's 100 years ahead of his time, and I try to put it into the play. It gets good reviews. It's not terrible.
And if you guys haven't seen, you got to check out Cracked Up.
Very good
Darrell
documentary.
Hammond story.
Michelle Ezrick directed. The brilliant Michelle Ezrick put it together.
It was really well done.
Super well done.
That was trippy, man.
I bet. It was, I mean, the vulnerability that you showed, it's like extremely hard to go to that place. Like, just kudos to even go there. Because, like, kind of what you're talking about, if it helps one person, that's what you talk about over and over. And it's a big deal.
But to go back to my childhood home was something that I'd prepared for in shrinks offices for 4 years.
Did you feel prepared when you ended up
Yeah,
stepping
and
in
when I
there?
was there, I didn't feel anything at all.
Right.
It wasn't until I came back to New York that I had a reaction to it.
Oh, really?
A delayed reaction, yeah.
Okay.
How
Interesting.
do you feel about doctors? I feel like you've met quite a lot,
Mm-hmm.
especially recently with your
Oh, yeah.
health things.
Yeah,
You had a gruesome experience.
It was, I had a kidney stone, and it was, I'd say, a lot worse than people had ever described to me, and it had been described to me as horrendous.
It's second only to childbirth.
Yeah.
Is what they say.
Childbirth for a man.
So
Terrible.
that I had a kidney stone, and that's why I'm like, well, I'm not doing that. I'm not having kids.
Oh, you did have one.
Yes, I've had one. I didn't have to get a surgery like Darrell here, but I passed it, the natural way.
All natural.
No, they give you a ton of meds to pass it. They give you the same meds that, open things up for whenever you have a baby.
Okay. Yeah.
And with the side of Dilaudid, which is quite nice.
Yeah, there was like, when I first got there, the pain was so severe, they gave me this shot of morphine, which was not tremendously large. I didn't get wasted or anything. It was just sort of, comfort without euphoria. It was a measured dose. I mean,
well, that's no fun.
I know. I was disappointed.
Just a little bit more,
Like,
Doc. Just
morphine. I want to feel what this is like. But and it was, needed. And then you do that, and what it's like. It's like, how do you even describe it?
But what was the surgery like? Because you couldn't pass it. They cut in.
Well, they have to go in through your urethra with cameras and lasers and place a stent inside of you. And aside from being just downright invasive, you can't have a more vulnerable region of the body than.
Yeah.
And
totally.
That shit'll chop you up, man.
I'm glad you're here.
I told Carlisle tonight on the way here. I'm like,
yeah,
man, I can't be no stairs.
You got to steer clear of stairs for a while.
That's all right.
Well, you didn't have to go up them, did you?
No, he went around the back.
All right, cool.
The VIP entrance, we call that.
The VIP.
Legends only back there.
Mm.
And then you're going to get right back up to Runyon Canyon tomorrow, I know, aren't you?
Do a little quick run.
Do you have to do like a physical therapy after this, or?
Oh, I'm sure I'll get to that eventually.
Yeah.
Not the week. This is the week of, by the way. So we thank you very much for being here, because this is all recent.
Super grateful.
They
That's
said
nice
it'd probably
of
be
you.
good to get out of the house, so something to do.
There you go.
Appreciate it, Darrell. Truly.
Man, I've had surgeries that, the kind that just put you down, like you dropped off a building onto a pile of bricks.
Goddamn.
When systems are haywire.
Yeah.
There's nothing
you
you can
down.
do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rough.
Can I ask you, sorry, I'm jumping all over the place, but I'm always very interested in how people make a living before they make it. So you're in New York, you're doing plays.
Waiting tables.
Waiting tables, because you got to have a job in New
And it
York.
eventually starts to wear you down where, you get a part in a play on West 4th Street and you quit your job, and or you get a part in summer stock and you leave for the summer and quit your job and give up your apartment to somebody and come back to the city with absolutely nothing. And having, been through that experience a few times, I'm crazy, but I'm not stupid.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it just beat me down.
Yeah, that's the part where, people talk about like, oh, the business and the rejection. It's like, well, sometimes the wearing down part is actually just the maintaining. It's like, I haven't had that much rejection yet because I haven't gotten in the door that many times to be rejected. It's like the part getting up to the rejection is actually
right.
I've had tons.
And you have these dumb restaurant jobs where they're like, oh yeah, I mean, we're going to need you that weekend, and you have the gig and you're like, okay, well, I guess this is it. Like, I'm obviously not
I
gonna.
once flew myself out here to get a 3-minute audition at one of the major rooms. I won't give away too many details.
Of course.
3-minute audition.
Yep.
$800 it cost me to come out here to get that audition. During the audition, the person who was supposed to be watching me was making out with somebody.
Whoa.
Oh my God.
Yikes.
Mitzi
Yikes.
Shore was such a whore back in those days.
I did not say her.
No, you
I
didn't.
didn't say that at all.
I'm kidding.
You said 3 minutes.
I just said there was back then. If you wanted an audition, like shit, I would do open mics in Florida.
Yeah.
I mean, I would drive from Orlando to West Palm. I'd drive to Tampa, to Miami, to Cocoa Beach.
Yeah.
Even to Daytona occasionally, and do 3-minute spots.
Yeah.
You know, and that was the beginning.
Just grinding on open mics and auditioning at as many comedy clubs as you could.
It was when I was ravenous.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that was like that
Unquenchable.
incremental improvements each day. Do you think that how long did you sustain that for? I mean, I'm sure it was decades, right? To have that kind of mindset where it's like 1% better each day.
I mean,
how do I get
you
better?
know,
How do I improve?
It happened. It went like that all the way until I got Saturday Night Live, where I went into a new quadrant of the universe,
Totally.
Mhm.
into a whole nother planet that I've never heard it adequately described.
Yeah.
I don't read the books. I don't watch the movies. I don't believe. And I was talking to one of our most erstwhile cast members recently about it. I don't believe it's been captured.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the haunted merriment of being, up against people that come in at the end of the year and want to see what they spent their money on and what's been the product this year.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Pressure.
it nobody cares if you got a bad break.
Right.
Or your main character died, so you didn't have time to get a new one.
Doesn't matter.
Man,
You know what
these
I
are
think
tightrope walkers, man.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's so crazy how people take years and years to write a piece, funding, they're getting the production lined up, everything. To cast something, oh, we got to have it in 24 hours. Read the whole script, we got to see you in what's the
And I used to go to those auditions for like these major products. I'm thinking of one photographic product, and they would have you improv, and you're like, oh, they love my improv. I made them laugh, and they were going to take that from you.
Yes, always. Whenever they go, now you just try a few. It's like you're all of a sudden a writer, and you don't know.
We couldn't have picked a coarser business, if that's the right word. It's coarse.
Yeah.
Rough.
See, I feel like for me, not that you asked, but how
was it for you?
I'm really more of an actress than a comedian. And I think that I'm such a good actress. I've been playing a stand-up comic pretty, it's passing. But it's
doing
not
a good job with it.
It's not doing much more than that, but it's
man.
So I'm ready to get cast in something.
I mean, you're talking about a business like, I just did this off-Broadway play for Audible, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it gets the best reviews you can get, okay? And it gets 5 standing ovations. And this is after it played at La Jolla Playhouse for 42 standing ovations. And so this happens off-Broadway a year ago.
Standing ovations.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, 47 with the off-Broadway run.
Wow.
And you think that that's going to be enough to move it to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not. And there's that empty, hollow feeling I felt when I was starting out, trying to start out in comedy, where you're like, what do you have to do? I mean, I don't see how you get ahead here.
Right.
If you have this great product and nobody wants it, it's weird. And a lot of it is that I don't have really much of a social media presence. I mean, this is what they're telling me, man. What do I know? All I know is
nowadays it seems like a big deal.
that,
Yeah.
just like hitting the ball over the fence doesn't seem to be enough anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's
Maybe
all,
I'm just belly aching.
No, I feel your pain, because I feel like there was a time whenever agents, managers, producers, whatever, they made you something, and now it's like you have to come to them. It's like they're like, show us what you got. We're your millions of followers type of thing. It's
no starter uppers anymore.
What?
No starter uppers.
No, there's nobody
feel
that's
like that.
developing, which is what they used to say, right? We're going to develop this person because we see something in them.
Man, I feel you. I've had my ass knocked off too. And I'm supposed to be successful.
You are successful.
You're successful, dude.
We're claiming it. You got to claim it.
I mean, it seemed to me like I did okay.
More than okay. SNL Hall of Fame.
It wasn't as great as I wanted it to be, but when you say words like that.
But you know that you're immortal now.
And why?
Because Saturday Night Live will always live on. People are always going to go back and watch these episodes, and you were one of the most legendary characters on there. So,
don't you have like the most cold
you're
opens
in the ethos forever
in the history of the show?
Do I? I think I have the most cold opens.
I think I looked this up. I'm pretty sure you got.
Oh, he did his research
by a little bit, by a lot of bit. I think maybe.
Keenan has done the most seasons, but I may have the most cold opens.
Yeah. I mean, that's amazing. Like that, come on. That's like the time that everyone is tuning in. It's like, okay, what's SNL got to say about the week that just happened? And this is like, I think you were on it during the most prime time to be on SNL, because now we're talking about social media and how that is kind of everywhere. People aren't necessarily tuning into SNL like they used to. I mean, I haven't looked at the numbers, you know what I mean? But I can imagine it was probably like, back in the day, like back when you were on it in its heyday, 16 million, more than that, probably watching it. Probably a lot less now.
I mean, I was informed, years and years ago, in confidential conversations, which, I won't say who they were with, but just sort of enlightened that, that YouTube was coming for us all, for everyone.
Right.
And that if someone can get 11 million views with shadow puppets,
right,
or there's a reasonable photographic image of a two-headed calf,
or a drone,
gonna have to compete with that.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we're on YouTube, right here. Like and subscribe.
I don't know, man.
Can you tell us before we go, because we are wrapping up here, but what was the craziest after party story that you could tell publicly? We've heard lore of the SNL after parties. Are they really wild, or are they tame?
I mean, I never really went to that many of them. I got drunk at a presidential inauguration, and I was never really encouraged to go to that party.
Well, that sounds fun.
Because those parties were wild.
Yeah, I bet.
I'm told. And then there was an after party and an after.
Which inauguration did you get drunk at?
I forget.
Don't remember.
It was afterwards. I wasn't.
Yeah.
It
wasn't like you had a flask at the inauguration. It was.
I just, it's one of those things one of those moments where it was just too much for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like my mind could not absorb it. And I'm not saying that's the reason that I drank or anything, but I remember that day there were people from other, media stars there trying to have a conversation with them as if we were collegial, and feeling really overwhelmed. The whole thing would blow me away sometimes.
Yeah.
I bet.
Yeah.
So you're like, I'm just going to check out right now.
Did it feel out of body maybe?
I don't know. I don't know what it was. It just, there was a time when when I could get thrown off my horse pretty easily,
Yeah.
you know, and thankfully that's gotten much better over the years.
Not these days.
I don't know. I get an ass whooping once in a while.
The only thing taking you down these days is a damn kidney stone.
Fucking kidneys.
Yeah, bro. Never again.
Drink your water.
Like, I don't see how you would reasonably expect to ever have something like that happen again.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Well, whatever.
We're so happy we got you today, Darrell.
Thank you, Darrell.
Thank you
Truly.
for being here.
Appreciate you,
You
man.
are amazing.
Thank you for letting me wear my shades.
Yeah.
Swag. You look great.
I just didn't have it today, and I wanted to cover up.
It looks great.
Looks good, man.
All right.
And everybody follow Darrell Hammond on it because we got to get this
On the socials.
social media going. Come on.
Instagram at Darrell Hammond.
Darrell Hammond on Instagram. And here for the hang. We'll be back with a new episode for y'all next week. Thanks for being here for the hang.
Later, guys.